Well, good morning, everyone. Today on Faith Livestream, we're going to talk about some things. Let's see who all's on. Clementine, speaking Spanish. Miss Donna, speaking English. Sharon, English. Hal, English. Cheryl, English. Didi, speaking Portuguese. Good morning. Bom dia. Elder Barbara, good morning. Rosa, good morning. Cornelia, Mallory, Jason, good day, mate. Chris, Miss Kay, hi Eden, good morning again. She did. I have to tell y'all what she did this morning. Good morning, Hector. Like she woke up and was still stretching and rubbing her face, and she just leans over to my nose and goes boop, boop, and she did it 10 times in a row. It was funny. Joel, good morning. Pastor John. You made Clemmy lose it. She's rolling on the floor. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Javi. We are getting close to the end of our goals for 2024. Some of y'all are bored. Some of y'all are loving it. Everyone likes different things. Some people like DJing cats. Some people don't. Good morning, Sandy. Some people like steak. Some people like veggie burgers. You like both? You like veggie burgers? Suspicious. All right, today. Good, I'm glad someone's getting something out of it. And I'm really trying to break them down as to why steak. Yes, steak. We just bought some steak yesterday. I'll be listening while driving to your haircut. Thank you. We today are talking about serving. Serving should be one of our goals, and what that looks like to each person. If you're open to sharing, I would love. Good morning, Miss Amy. Good to see you. Oh, Sandy's mad that you like veggie burgers.
What?
I'll let y'all duel that out tonight. Or
Who?
Sandy.
Oh.
I'll let y'all fight that. Y'all can have a keyboard duel as to who wins. Anyways, serving. What that looks like to you? Maybe that's just serving in the church. Maybe it's serving other people. Maybe it's a lifestyle of serving, which is what I would recommend. Serving has really gotten me into every position in ministry that I've ever had. Literally, I think I've told this story multiple times, but we'll tell it here. I think may have only told it in the Bible school. But so my first job in ministry, after asking the Lord, I was working a secular job during Bible school, and all my friends were getting to do ministry things while I was in the mall selling shoes. And they were getting to go to all the conferences, and I would roll in right when Pastor Rodney was ending service. I know that's hard to imagine, but I would get there about 10:15, and he would start winding down about then. We still had about an hour and a half, usually 2 hours of service. But my friends got to be there for all service. And so I asked the Lord, this is the way I talk to the Lord, and this is the way he talks to me. So if it's different with you, that's what I love about the Lord. He talks to us in our own personalities, right? Lord, why do I'm whining. I sound like the Israelites. Why do all my friends get to do this? Why don't I get to do this? And then I started declaring something and praying. Lord, I thank you for a job to where I can be at all of the conferences and not miss out on anything. And the next day, guess what happened? My manager said, hey, Sean, let's go on a walk. Cool, I like walks. Hey, you're fired. Hey, thanks. So, and she literally goes, I have no reason to fire you, but I'm firing you. Okay, cool. So in my flesh, what do? I storm out all, good morning, Miss Dawn. Storm out all mad, don't even sign my exit paperwork. And if I wasn't a Christian, I probably would have said some things, but I was a Christian. I was a good little Bible school student. Hey, Benjamin, good to see you. And so I walk out all mad, and I'm driving back to my house all mad. If y'all can picture me driving mad. And I'm like, Lord, what just happened? And he just, like he does all the time, what did you ask me for? Okay, I'll shut up. I'll stop my pity party, stop my whining. And I go the next day, literally the next day. Like most of you know me by now, that I can't just sit. Like I'm not someone that can just sit around. I have to be, even like during meetings and stuff, I'm moving and working on other things during the meeting. But the next day they were doing a big newsletter before email and text were a big thing at the river at RMI headquarters. And I just went in after Bible school and helped them for 2 or 3 days. It took like a week for us to get a whole mail out back then. It was this machine that took up, if you can, trying to think of a room that everyone knows. Everyone knows the Spanish auditorium. The machine took up probably half of the Spanish auditorium. It like wrapped around one side of the room, wrapped around the back, and wrapped back up the other side. So you would have to put in all the letters, then in another section you'd have to put in all the envelopes, then another section you have to put in all the giving envelopes, then another section you have to put in the pamphlet, and you had to keep these things full. And you had, anytime there was a jam, you had to unclog it. And it took like 4 of us to run this machine. And so I was helping them. I learned the machine pretty quickly. And Pastor Rodney happened to walk in. And I didn't know it. I just kept working. But he had pulled the shipping manager aside and was like, what's Sean doing? Oh, he's helping. He's just volunteering, helping. He heard that we had this, so he came in and helped. And he goes, hire him. And he goes, not only that, how many days has he been working? I think like 4 or 5. Back pay him for however many days whenever he started. So he hired me there. I didn't even know he hired me. I think I found out, hey, Jose, good to see you. I think I found out like 2 days later or something. And it allowed me to be at every service, not only be at every service, but get paid to be at the services. It also allowed me not to miss anything at the ministry. And another humbling thing that the Lord taught me when I was serving in shipping there, I again I was picking up on that generational spirit of the Israelites. And I'm sitting here in shipping while all my friends get to travel around the country doing the Great Awakening tours with Pastor Rodney, and they're all winning tens of thousands of souls each week and yada, yada, yada. And I start whining again to the Lord. Lord, how come all my friends get to go and my classmates get to go win all these souls and I'm stuck here in this warehouse and yada, yada, just crying, just like a little baby. And like you look back on it now and you're like, what were you doing? And he said, Sean, what are you doing right now? I said, I'm wrapping a pallet. What does that have to do with souls? Like literally, this is how I'm talking to the Lord. And he goes, what's on that pallet? This is literally word for word what he said to me. Well, I said, and like you start going, well, soul winning scripts, stat cards, keep me on your prayer list. And like you're going down the list and he stops me. He goes, okay. And he goes, if they didn't have the soul winning cards, if they didn't have the scripts, how could they train people to win souls and how would they be winning souls? He goes, so if it wasn't for what you were doing, they couldn't be doing what they're doing there. And that just hit me in the face. Like there's times where it hits you in the gut, right? And there's times where it just hits you in the face. Like, okay, you're an idiot. Stop complaining. And it really taught me that like it doesn't matter where you're serving. If you're doing it with the right heart, if you're doing it with the right intention, and you're serving where the Lord told you to be, and where he opened the door for you, and it's very clear that he opened the door and you didn't force the door open, then you're in the right spot. And as long as you're doing it with the right heart, you're going to get the right rewards out of it. So let's go into this. That was just for a free random. Well, that's just the first story, isn't it? I said 3. Okay. Second one. While I was at the river. Good morning, Tony. Good to see you. While I was at the river in Bible school, working in shipping, my serving area was armor bearing. So I would help. First of all, I was like, this was a weird thing, really weird. Most of the Bible school students were like 18 to 20 or like 45 to 60. Here's Sean right in the middle at like 24, 25. As soon as I hit 25 in my second year, I was literally the only Bible school student on the insurance to be able to drive the ministry vehicles. So I was privileged with a lot of tasks that other people couldn't do. I say privileged. So anyways, In this instance, it was a great honor and a great privilege because I got to pick up a lot of the guests from the airport, the guest speakers, any guest ministers coming in. And I wouldn't talk. If they would talk to me, I would engage in conversation, but I wouldn't purposely engage them to try to open a door for myself. You understand what I'm saying? And there were some that came in all the time to where they would invite me up to their hotel room. They would take me out to lunch or whatever it was, or whatever. They would connect with me. And there was one that was like, hey, Sean, I want you to pray about coming to South Africa to start a missions organization for me and be my missions pastor. I said, okay, great. I'll pray about it. I'll think about it. I was actually leaving soon for Zambia to do missions training. And I felt at that time that that's where I was going to end up. And then just all through it, I ended up in South Africa working for this minister for like 4 years, starting the missions organization, starting a missions school, basically a Bible school. And it really, out of my serving, it opened the door for me to go to another country. I traveled with him to South Africa, Namibia, Botswana, Lesotho, at least 4 countries with him that he would take me on. He would take me on ministry trips to just help him and be there with him and just to spend time with him. It was just an awesome relationship. And all of that came from serving. That opened the door for me to get experience in ministry, to open doors to things I didn't even think were possible at that point. Having just come out of Bible school, launched into full-time ministry because of my serving and my obedience in that. And then my position here at Church in the City, after I felt the Lord telling me it was time to leave South Africa, which was a heartbreak for me because I loved it. I loved being in the mission field. It was kind of, I felt like, when Jesus says foxes have dens and birds have nests, but I have nowhere to lay my head. That's what I felt like when I lived in South Africa. I tell this story jokingly, but I'm 100% serious. If you know me, that is my personality. Like, I'm 100% serious, but I'm joking at the same time, most of the time. There were mornings between mission trips, between traveling with this minister, between traveling back and forth between the mission school and also teaching in the Bible school there and where I had my house, and then my house moved several times. It got to the point where in the mornings, this is how I would wake up. I would wake up and put my hands behind my head to see where I was, to see if it was a smooth wall, to see if it was a cinder block wall, to see if I was in a tent, because I could not keep track of where I was. And it was just amazing to see what the Lord did. Anyways, after leaving that and the Lord telling me, hey, it's time to come home, I was like, no, because I never wanted to be part of a local church. I didn't even though I was a pastor on staff there at the church there, I was out of town most of the time doing mission trips. And I didn't have to deal with any of the local church drama. I don't know if you've ever been part of a local church, which you all are, but no matter what, no matter how amazing the church is, I mean, this church is amazing, but there's always little pieces of drama behind the scenes that sometimes aren't pleasant to deal with. There haven't been any major ones recently here, but anyways. So I just was like, Lord, I felt like Jesus here. Lord, let this cup pass from me, but if it is your will, let it be done. And so I moved back, told the pastor there that, hey, the Lord's telling me to move back. And the Lord told me this back in 2014. You're to come and you're going to be a pastor on staff at Church in the City. Okay, fine. I said, you're going to have to make that happen because I'm not going to go make it happen. So I moved back, and again, I'm not one that can sit around. I think I moved back at the end of, when was the tornado, 2015? Yes. So I officially moved back in May of 2015. And for months, I'm applying places. Even I've told this story in the Bible school. Even I applied one place that they called me and said, hey, your personality is exactly what we're looking for. Your experience is exactly what we're looking for. The fact that you have leadership experience is exactly what we're looking for, but we chose to go with someone else. Thanks. Cool. Thanks for the phone call. But at that point, I asked the Lord, I said, Lord, I can't just sit around. And I can't just not eat. Like I'm not going on an 80-day fast. Like that's not what I want to do. So you're going to have to make some things happen. I said, why am I hitting such a wall applying at these places? He goes, I didn't call you back to go work in the secular world. I said, okay, then you're going to have to make something happen. It's going to have to happen soon. And I believe it was the next week or two, the tornado happened. And I did not pray for a tornado. Let me make that very clear. But what had happened at that point were David and Jackie Diaz were collecting a bunch of stuff to kind of help and do things, and I had gone by to drop off a bunch of water and like was talking to David for a little bit, and then Jackie came. Good morning, Jason. And we were all just talking, and they said, hey, why don't you come in and help us do stuff? Okay, sure. I had nothing to do. Again, I wasn't working, had nothing to do. So I started helping, and then I think the next day, Jackie and I moved we figured out that the Student Center had power. This main building did not have power. The Student Center was one of the only big buildings in Rowlett at the time to have power. We have no idea how it had power. It didn't make any sense. But we opened the Relief Center like that next day. And then all of a sudden, Jackie and I and another couple were, not that Jackie and I are definitely not a couple, just making that clear. But there was a couple, Christian and Monica Baker. Hey, Daryl, Tisha, good to see y'all. The four of us together ran the Relief Center again with like Susan, Barbara, a bunch of people. Yeah, Barbara was there. Susan from another ministry, Chef did a lot, Tina did a lot. And that kind of just is where I really got plugged in. I told Pastor Mark, if y'all remember Pastor Mark Nelson that was working here, that was one of the pastors on staff then. I just came and started serving in young adults, and I literally just told him, hey, like whatever you need, I'm just here to serve. Like it literally got to where it was comical, and he would quote it all the time. Like, but I was serious. Like, hey, you need me to learn how to run sound? Fine, I'll learn how to run sound. You need me to stack chairs? Fine, I don't care. I'm literally just here to serve. Whatever you need. I made phone calls, whatever it was. I'm just here to serve. And through the tornado, the Relief Center, and then we had to shut down the Relief Center. And I was like, okay, Lord, what am I supposed to do? He said, I told you you're going to be a pastor at church in the city. Okay, cool. And then after we shut down the Relief Center in August or July, and then I'm like, okay, Lord, what am I going to do? Start doing some random things. In September, Pastor Ryan approached me about taking a position at the church for maintenance. And so I had a conversation with the Lord. Lord, I thought you called me to ministry, and I'm supposed to be a pastor here. He said, just trust me. Just take it. I said, okay. So I took it. Then it wasn't like 2 weeks later, hey, we want you to start teaching and preaching, and we want you to be the outreach pastor. Okay, cool. Now we're talking. So then that kind of just opened the door, and that, again, came from me just serving. Every position I've had in ministry has come from serving. And yeah, that's the only reason we would be married. If I didn't come back, if I didn't work in the Relief Center, then I would have never met Mallory. So, yeah. So praise the Lord. So anyways, let's get into our lesson. We've just told testimonies for the first 30 minutes. They were good ones, and they go exactly with what we're talking about. But all of that came from serving, which plays exactly into our first verse. Luke 16, verse 12. Luke 16, verse 12. And if you have not been faithful in what is another man's, who will give you what is your own? The Amplified Classic says this. And if you have not proved faithful in that which belongs to another, whether God or man, who will give you that which is your own, that is the true riches? So we always hear people say, God will never give you your own vision until you can prove yourself faithful with another man's. And right here we see it in Scripture in Luke 16:12. That until we're faithful with another man's vision or what belongs to another man, then how can God give us our own? We were talking about this in a staff meeting on Tuesday. It's just kind of like this. If we work for someone else and we're spending someone else's money, we're always a little more liberal than if it were our own money, correct? Like if it's someone else paying the electric bill, then we don't care about leaving a light on. But if we're paying the electric bill, every time we go out of a room, we make sure we turn the light off, right? We make sure that. So this was funny, and this had nothing to do with paying the electric bill. It was just what we like to do. But hey, Miss Cornelia. But during like this time of year, when it was just Mallory and I at the house, the air conditioner and the heater was turned off, like completely, and we'd open windows. We just loved fresh air. But as soon as like all the kids moved in and stuff, it was like, we're cold, we're hot. So we had to turn the air on. But how many of us, again, like if we're at work, we don't care. We'll blast the heat. Oh, I'm cold. I got to blast it to 90. But if we're at home, I'm not putting it above 63. Why? Because we don't care about spending someone else's money. But we have to realize here, like, how do we feel if we think about it this way? If we prayed for a job, right? Then God opened the door for that job. But then we think about and have that kind of mentality. Are we being good stewards of the door that God opened for us? Are we serving the way God intends us to serve? Are we serving another man's vision, another man's business? Are we serving another man's finances the same way we would do ours, or the same way we would do it as we looked at it as if it was God's, and if God was asking us daily, hey, are you being a good steward? Hey, are you being a good steward of your time? Are you being a good steward of the finances? Are you being a good steward? Like, here's the other thing. If your work buys you a laptop, if your work buys you a vehicle, if your work buys you whatever, office furniture, are you being a good steward of that stuff? Or are you just beating it up because you don't care because it's not yours personally? Are you proving yourself faithful with another man's stuff, with God's stuff? If so, then he can give you your own. But I kind of told y'all that, my testimony on that, especially when back last year multiple times, and I've told it throughout. When I was driving the church truck, the black truck that is now wrapped and gets used for food pantry. The Lord challenged me and said, hey, you want your own? Yes, sir. Take care of that one, even though it's however many years old, as if you would if someone gave you a brand new truck, and I'll open the door for you to get a brand new truck. And that's exactly what happened. And even to this day, when that truck gets serviced or anything, people are amazed at how, and it was in good shape when I got it, so I'm not trying to make it sound like I did everything, how great the interior is of that truck. Because whoever had it before me took care of it, and I took care of it as well. So if we can't prove ourselves faithful with what is another man's, then God will never give us our own. 1 Peter 4, 10 through 12. This is one that really hit me last year, at the beginning of last year, the very beginning of last year. And it's stuck with me since. God has given each of you a gift from his great variety of spiritual gifts. So right there, how many of us does the devil like to say, oh, you're not talented in any way. There's nowhere for God to use you. What talents and gifts do you have that can be used for the ministry or be used for the advancement of the kingdom? How can you be raised up? Has the devil said that to anyone? Just give me a thumbs up, an acknowledgement of some kind. Okay. I don't know if it was just me. You have red hair. You have way too many freckles for the Lord to use you. Right? The devil says some pretty stupid stuff. But what's even crazier is half the time we're like, yeah, devil, you're right. Like, you think God cares about how many freckles you have? Anyways. God used a prophet that little kids were calling Baldy. And what did the prophet do? Do y'all know this story off the top of your head? He sent a bear to kill the kids. Hey, Henry, good to see you, man. Anyways, where were we? 1 Peter 4, verse 10. God has given each of you a gift from his great variety of spiritual gifts. Use them well to serve one another. So it doesn't matter what you think your gift is. It doesn't matter if you feel like your gift isn't enough. It says that God has given each and every one of us a gift. And it says it's a command to use it to serve one another. Verse 11, do you have the gift of speaking? Then speak as though God himself were speaking through you. And that's kind of something like I've been telling the Bible school students in a roundabout way, and I'll probably hit it hard with this, is you speak. And this is what I've been telling them. Like they asked me a very good question. Was it you, Becca, that asked this? I don't remember who asked it. Maybe it was Kathy. I don't remember. Do you still get nervous? And I explained the difference between nervousness and feeling the weight. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. It says, then speak as though God himself were speaking through you. If you're speaking to someone about the things of the Lord, there's a weight to it, an importance. I don't even know how to explain it other than a weight. It's not like a nervousness. It's not like a burden, but it's like a seriousness, like a importance, like again, I don't know how to put it into words other than just a weight. Again, it's not a burden. It's not like something that weighs you down.
It almost feels like urgency.
Yeah, like an urgency, again, like there's all these words that kind of float around what I'm trying to say, but there's really no way to put it. But like there's a weight to it, an importance, an urgency. I have to do this. Like Paul said, woe to me if I don't preach the gospel of Jesus Christ. Woe to me. Like if I don't preach, I don't get anxious, but if I don't preach for a long period of time, I start twitching and foaming at the mouth. But it's like that. Do you have the gift of speaking? Then speak as though God himself were speaking through you. And that's the way it should be with any gift. Like say with Clemmy. Clemmy should be working, and I'm not picking on Clemmy, I'm just giving you an example because she's right there. Clemmy should be designing every graphic as though God were instructing her how to design that graphic. Everything we're doing, good morning, Miss McCray, should be giving glory to the Lord. Like, how many of us, if we're very honest, go through phases of work where we're like, oh, I can do just enough to get by. But if we get into that mindset, are we actually believing that God is working through us? Probably not. Probably not. It goes on to say, do you have the gift of helping others? Do it with all strength and energy that God supplies. And that's the part that really hit me this last year. But now I have another part that hit me just now as we were saying that. Do it with all the strength and energy that God supplies. So what that tells me, what that shows us, is that as long as I'm serving, God supplies the strength and the energy for me to serve. So the whole burned out thing means you don't have a revelation of who God is in your life, because He supplies the strength and the energy. Then everything you do, listen to this, then everything you do will bring glory to God through Jesus Christ. All glory and power to Him forever and ever. Do you want to increase your gifts, your talents? Luke 6:38. Give and it will be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be put into your bosom. For the same measure that you use it, it will be measured back to you. And I know everyone likes to think about this as money, but if we go look at the verses, let me find it. The verses above it, he's actually talking about if you go to verse 35, love your enemies, do good to them. Lend to them without expecting to be repaid. Then your reward from heaven will be very great, and you will truly be acting as children of the Most High, for He is kind to those who are unthankful and wicked. You must be compassionate as your Father is compassionate. Do not judge others, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn others, or it will come back to you again. Forgive others, and you will be forgiven. Give, and you will receive your gift in full, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Hello, Victor. So right there, people love to put it about money, and I'm not saying it's not about money, but it's funny that it's grouped with how we should treat other people. So if we're giving out compassion, if we're giving out forgiveness, if we're giving out all these things, we're talking about character, we're talking about serving, we're talking about how we treat other people. The way you give, so if I give to someone else, if I'm serving them, if I'm taking care of them, it says right there, then it'll be given back to me. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. If you are called to ministry, if you're called to business, we'll go the business route on this one. I hit ministry a lot. If you feel called to business and you're currently working for someone, are you serving that person with excellence? Are you serving them the way that when you own your business, you want your employees to serve you? And you can use the word serve, work for, whatever. I'm not trying to make it sound like slavery. But are you turning in the quality of work? Are you using your time? Are you having the right attitude with the same way you would want employees to work for you? Because many times we have people that you'll see people, they act one way when they're working for someone or when they're in ministry under someone. But then whenever they have the opportunity to lead other people, they come down on them, they're rah, 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 rah. But they don't want to be led like that. So it's always funny. Like, how would you want your employees to work for you? Are you working the same way for who you work for now? The Amplified says, give, and gifts will be given to you, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. They will pour into the pouch formed by the bosom of your robe, used as a bag. With the measure you deal out, with the measure you use when you confer benefits on others, it will be measured back to you. So next question for you. How many of you want to be great at whatever it is you do? Or you want to do great things for the kingdom? No, Pastor Sean, I just want to work at Kroger. Then be the best employee at Kroger. 1 Corinthians 9:19. Paul says this, for though I am free from all men, I have made myself a servant to all, that I might win the more. There are some people you can only win to the Lord by serving them and showing them in action God's love, God's forgiveness, God's kindness, God's gentleness. Some people, that's the only way you can win. Matthew 23:11. But he who is greatest among you shall be servant. He who is greatest among you shall be a servant. Mark 9:35. And he sat down, called the 12, and said to them, if anyone desires to be first, he shall be last of all and servant of all. If you can't, no matter how elevated you get, no matter if your position keeps going up, if you still can't serve, if you can't serve people, if you're not willing to do the least of things, God can never elevate you. That's why I never want to be too high, too good, too arrogant to move a table, to move some chairs. If I got to go unclog a toilet, whatever, I'll do it. Those kind of things keep you grounded. And I'm not saying like, I don't expect Pastor Ryan, Pastor Vicky, Pastor Andrea to come clean a toilet. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, and if y'all know Pastor Ryan will do it. He doesn't care. Like, he literally doesn't care. So let's keep ourselves humble and always be willing to serve. I love this next passage. Because you see, we're going to go to 1 Kings chapter 10. And if you have any questions about serving, go ahead and throw them in the comments. This next passage tells us kind of how we should serve. You see the Queen of Sheba, if we all know who that represents. The devil. Coming to see Solomon. She came to literally... Hey, thanks, Victor. She came to literally try to call him out and find something wrong with Solomon. She had heard of all of his fame. Let's just read it. Verse 1. 1 Kings 10, verse 1. This is the Amplified. We'll read Amplified and then Amplified Classic and then New Living. When the Queen of Sheba heard of the constant connection of the fame of Solomon with the name of the Lord, she came to prove him with hard questions, problems, and riddles. So she came purposely to try to trip him up. She came to Jerusalem with a very great train, with camels bearing spices, very much gold and precious stones. When she had come to Solomon, she communed with him about all that was in her mind. Solomon answered all of her questions. There was nothing hidden from the king which he failed to explain to her. When the queen, and this is the part I like, when the queen of Sheba had seen all of Solomon's wisdom and skill, the house he had built, the food on his table, the seating of his officials, the standing at attention of his servants, their apparel, his cupbearers, his ascent by which he went up to the house of the Lord, or the burnt offerings he sacrificed, she was breathless and overcome. She said to the king, "It was a true report I heard in my own land of your acts, your sayings, and your wisdom. I did not believe it until I had come and my eyes had seen. Behold, the half was not told to me. You have added wisdom and goodness exceeding the fame I have heard. Happy are your men. Happy are these your servants who stand continually before you, hearing your wisdom." Well, remind me to come back to that. Let's go to the New Living. There's some points I want to come back to. The Queen of Sheba heard of Solomon's fame, which brought honor to the name of the Lord. She came to test him with hard questions. See, to test him. She arrived in Jerusalem with a large group of attendants and a great caravan of camels loaded with spices, large quantities of gold and precious jewels. When she met with Solomon, she talked with him about everything she had on her mind. Solomon had answers for all of her questions. Nothing was too hard for the king to explain to her. When the Queen of Sheba realized how very wise Solomon was, and when she had seen the place he had built, the palace he had built, she was overwhelmed. She was also amazed at the food on his table, the organization of his officials, and their splendid clothing, the cupbearers, and the burnt offerings Solomon had made at the temple of the Lord. She exclaimed to the king, "Everything I heard in my country about your achievements and wisdom is true. I didn't believe what was said until I arrived here and saw it with my own eyes. In fact, it is not heard the half of it. I had not heard the half of it. Your wisdom and prosperity are far beyond what I was told. How happy your people must be. What a privilege for your officials to stand here day after day listening to your wisdom." So here's the areas I really want to hit. She was impressed with his servants, how they were dressed with excellence, how they presented themselves with excellence. Standing continually, she said, "Happy are your servants." Are we serving with the right attitudes? Do we look happy when we're serving? Are we talking to people? Are we smiling? Are we happy to be there, or are we grumbling and complaining? I believe the word says, do so without grumbling and complaining, without murmuring and complaining. So those are the two areas that really stuck out. She came to test him, to challenge him. How many people walk in the church to see, oh, what's this about? What's this actually about? Do people really get healed here? They should be, it doesn't matter if they come in with an attitude like that. Just because of how happy and the level of excellence people are serving in the house of the Lord, their hearts should be changed. They should see, oh my word, these people are on top of it. These people are excited to see me. These people are happy I'm here. Like, they should just be overwhelmed with the goodness at the level of serving. Great question. Let me get to it in just a second. Proverbs 11:24 and 25. And we'll read it in the New Living and in the Amplified. Give freely and become more wealthy. Be stingy and lose everything. The generous will prosper. Those who refresh others will themselves be refreshed. That one hit me. I think that was like 2019. 2019, 2020. That really hit me. Those who refresh others will themselves be refreshed. If I'm pouring into others, guess what the Lord's going to do to me? Refresh me. If I'm serving others with the right heart, the right attitude, guess what the Lord's going to do to me? Refresh me. You feel tired? Go serve somebody. You feel worn out? Go serve. The Amplified says, there is the one who generously scatters abroad and yet increases all the more. There is the one who generously scatters abroad and yet increases all the more. You want your natural abilities to be increased? Serve in a bunch of areas. You're tired? Go serve. Why? The Lord is we saw it earlier in 1 Peter 4:10 through 12. The Lord is the one that supplies the strength and the energy. Verse 25 in the Amplified says this, the generous man is a source of blessing and shall be prosperous and enriched. And he who waters will himself be watered, reaping generously the generosity he has sown. So you want to be filled, you want to be refreshed, go serve someone else. All right, Clemmy, this isn't really a question for me, but more of a general one. How do you go about moving past the need for appreciation or feeling valued while you're serving, especially if you serve in multiple areas and dedicate a lot of time and energy to it? Great question. Joel, if you have the ability and talents to serve in multiple areas, do that mean? I'm assuming you mean does that mean? Does that mean you should serve in every one of those areas? Great questions. If there's any more, type them in the comments. All right, so to Clemmies. How do you move past the need for appreciation or feeling valued? Number one, you do it as unto the Lord. You're not sorry. If you ever have the attitude that you're serving man and need the appreciation from man, you will always feel unappreciated. Always. Why? Because man is human. It's just that simple. And there's definitely phases. Like I know up here, there's ways we show appreciation. Like I serve lunch. That's what that's about. That's us buying everyone lunch, telling y'all how much we're thankful, how much we love you, how grateful we are for you. That is exactly what that's about, is saying thank you. And that's why we try to do multiple years. The same with potluck, is telling everyone thank you, we love you. Doing different things like that. But the other thing is, too, learning, and this is something y'all know I've been on for a while, learning other people. Other people, let's say it this way, different people show appreciation different ways, right? Kind of based on how many of y'all have read the 5 Love Languages book. Yeah, the book 5 Love Languages. Y'all haven't read that? Oh, my word. Okay, so that's one of your summer reading assignments. Actually, I'm going to make that a class. Becca, tell Laura we're making that a class. 5 Love Languages. We're making that a class. Probably be second year. But basically in it basically says some people have different love languages, whether that's receiving gifts, whether that's words of appreciation, words of affirmation, gifts, affirmation, quality time, physical touch, and acts of service. So what's hard when you work, and we'll just use the church as an example, right? What's hard is you've got how many staff members here on a daily basis? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, say 15. We'll just ballpark at 15. That's 15 different personalities. So between that, all of those people receive differently and communicate differently. So being mature enough to understand that even though one person may need words of encouragement, the person that's giving the thanks is more in tune with acts of service. So just say, I'm just throwing out hypotheticals. Say Clemmy needs to hear it in words, But the person that's giving thanks is like, hey, I bought y'all cookies, or I bought, like, you know, whatever it is. You've got to be mature enough to realize they may be telling me thank you already, but it may not be the way I want it. And that's what we like to do as humans. We want it to be the way we want it. Meanwhile, everyone else is already telling us thank you. I love you. I'm so grateful for you. But and we do this in relationships all the time too, whether that be parent-child relationships, whether that be friendships, whether it be romantic relationships, marriages. The person's screaming out, thank you, I love you, but it's not the way we want to receive it. So that's where we have to be mature enough to see, okay, it may not be the way I want it, but they are telling me. And does that make sense? So I think that right there, if you can do that, shows a huge level of maturity, because 99.9% of people cannot do that. If you can learn that, then that'll never be an issue. Because 99.9% of people that do have employees are telling them thank you in some capacity. Joel, if you have the ability and talents to serve, look at him showing off. I got all these talents. If you have the ability and talents to serve in multiple areas, does that mean you should be serving in every one of those areas? No. Just simply no. I mean, Joel, you have the ability to clean a toilet, but that doesn't mean you should be the janitor. You have the ability to fix the plumbing, but you know what I mean? I think, let me give my honest opinion and my honest testimony. Like, I think at some point it's great for people to serve in every area, but that doesn't mean you always serve as the janitor. That doesn't mean you always serve as an usher. That doesn't mean, but you also can't be the person, because we have the opposite extreme too. We have both extremes. As Pastor Ryan always teaches, we have the ditches, and most people like to live in the ditches, and most people, we need to live in the middle, right? You have the people that want to serve everywhere and never take a break, and and then you have the people that, like, 1 week they're serving here and then they quit. Then they serve over here for 2 weeks and then they quit. Serve over here for 3 months and then they quit. Serve over here. And it's always kind of like head scratching as to why. So we've got to be in the middle, right? Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with, especially if you're new to the church, serving in areas and then building up to other areas. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with serving in places for a season and then moving to another area, as long as it's done right. Listen to what I'm saying. It's not just like, hey, I'm quitting, see you later. And then you move, and then next week we see you serving somewhere else, and we're like, what just happened? Because listen to what I'm going to say. You get great benefit from serving in multiple areas. Great benefit. I mean, before I went to Bible school and first started serving here, they were first starting to train me on the soundboard. Then I went to Bible school. In Bible school, I served as an usher. I served as a janitor. I did shipping, armor bearer, security, youth, young adults. I'm sure I'm leaving out a lot of stuff. On the mission field and with that ministry, I started doing some camera and some film stuff. Obviously, I was doing missions. I was doing anything. I was raising up armor bearers. I was over the ushers. I was doing all kinds of stuff. I've done all kinds of stuff here, whether it's from build stuff, literally, to mowing, to repairing something, to stacking chairs, to working with the ushers, working with armor bearers, like everything. So I don't think you have to serve in everyone, but I think it benefits you if you serve in a bunch over a long period of time, because you learn stuff from each one of them. And they're kind of like building blocks. Like, you can build on top of each other. It's kind of like the way we develop the curriculum. Like, if an instructor in the Bible school decides they're going to teach their own thing for one class, it actually robs the students from every class, because they all build on top of each other. And it's the same with serving. Like if I serve in one area, it builds on top of each other because I can take what I learned in one area and it makes me better in every other area. And it just builds on top of each other. Great questions. Anyone else before we wrap it up for the day? Nope. No questions? Any questions in the studio? All right. Love you guys. Tune in at 2 p.m. for Pastor Mallory. Prayer starts in an hour. Have a great weekend. Tune in tomorrow with Pastor Andrea and Pastor Kinsey. And be ready for this Sunday, the Sunday of all Sundays. Sunday. We have D group starting. We have the launch of Spanish Church, Iglesia en la Ciudad. We also have I Serve lunch after service for everyone that serves. So we will see you at all of those. Look forward to seeing you then. Love you. Have a great weekend.